This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed. A single cent, dull and ordinary in the palm of a man who nearly tossed it aside. But that very coin, struck in 1978 with a tiny D mint mark, would later be valued at nearly $1.7 million. The story of the 1978 D. Lincoln Memorial penny begins in an era when coins were churned out by the billions. Denver's Mint was working at full force. Tens of thousands of freshly pressed pennies rolled off the presses every hour, their bright copper surfaces gleaming under industrial lights. To the workers on the floor, it was routine. Just another day, just another penny. But hidden in that sea of copper, a handful were different. A handful carried mistakes so rare, so microscopic, that almost no one noticed. Collectors call them errors, but to those who discover them, they're not mistakes. They're miracles. One man in Colorado stumbled upon a 1978 D penny that looked just a little off. The date seemed doubled. The mint mark appeared misplaced, slightly tilted as though it had been punched by a tired hand in the dead of night. He nearly spent it at the grocery store. But something inside told him to hold it back, to slip it into his pocket and investigate. That decision would change his life forever. Because when it was later examined by experts, the truth came out. This wasn't just a penny. It was one of the rarest Lincoln Memorial cents ever struck. A coin so unique, so flawless in its imperfection, that when it crossed the auction block, bidding wars erupted. Dealers raised their paddles with trembling hands. Collectors leaned forward, eyes wide with disbelief. And when the hammer finally dropped, that single penny had sold for nearly $1.7 million. The secret lies in the errors. A doubled die on the date. A repunched mint mark. Striking anomalies that escape ordinary eyes, but dazzle collectors, who know what to look for. In some cases, the coin was struck on the wrong metal planchet altogether. Imagine a penny pressed onto a dime silver surface. Imagine holding that in your hand and not even realizing it. And here's the chilling truth. Countless of these pennies slipped quietly into circulation. They clinked in vending machines. They passed across counters. They vanished into piggy banks and glove compartments. Even today, some of them are still out there, waiting. Collectors were stunned when the first $1 million 1978 D penny appeared. Dealers rushed to re-examine their own collections. Stories spread like wildfire of a man who found his in a roll of pennies bought from the bank for just 50 cents. Of a teenager who discovered one mixed in with her allowance. Of a retired veteran who had kept a coffee can of spare change by his bed, never knowing that inside sat a coin worth more than his house. And yet, most people still overlook them. Most people still see only copper, never spotting the doubled letters in Liberty, the faint spreading of the date, or the subtle distortion of the mint mark. But here's where it gets even more thrilling. Not all 1978 D pennies are errors. The vast majority are worth only face value. But hidden among the ordinary are those treasures, those once-in-a-lifetime pieces that could transform an unsuspecting finder into a millionaire overnight. You're sorting through your change late at night. The television flickers in the background. And then you see it, the date. 1978, a D beneath it. At first, nothing special. But then, under the light, you notice the tiniest doubling, a shimmer in the numbers, something different. Could it be the one? Could it be the same kind of coin that once shocked the coin world with its $1 million price tag? But here's the catch. Many collectors miss it because they rush. They glance, they assume, they spin the coin without a second thought. And just like that, a fortune slips away. Slow down. Hold that 1978 D penny under magnification. Look closely at the date. Is the 1 slightly doubled? Does the 9 appear thicker than usual? Does the D mint mark seem repunched, off-center, or distorted? These are the details that separate pocket change from treasure. And there's more. Some 1970 AD pennies were struck with such sharp errors that even an amateur can spot them instantly. A dramatic off-center strike. A coin with part of the design missing. A misaligned die that left Lincoln's face stretched like a ghostly figure. These spectacular errors can bring jaw-dropping prices, sometimes climbing into the hundreds of thousands, or, in that one unforgettable case, soaring to nearly $1.7 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because once word spread of the 1978 $1 million penny, everyday people began tearing through their change. Bankrolls sold out. Families dug through decades-old jars. Pawn shops reported people rushing in with bags of pennies, begging for appraisals. It became a frenzy, a modern-day gold rush. Some left empty-handed, but others walked away with miracles. One man in Texas found a near-mint example. He had spent years searching, and when he finally spotted it, his hand shook as he held it up to the light. Within weeks, his discovery had changed the trajectory of his entire life. Have you looked closely at that jar sitting by your dresser, at the coins rattling in your car's cup holder? Because hidden in plain sight could be the one detail that makes all the difference. The 1970 AD penny worth over $1 million isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that the smallest things in life can carry the greatest treasures. That fortune doesn't always arrive in gold bars or winning lottery tickets. Sometimes it comes in the form of a scratched, overlooked cent 1978 with a small D just below it. Examine the numbers. Look for doubling, especially on the 9 and the 8. Inspect the mint mark carefully. If it seems repunched or slightly misplaced, don't ignore it. Finally, check for unusual weight or composition. If your penny feels heavier or lighter than normal, it could have been struck on the wrong planchet, and that's where life-changing value hides. Don't let your eyes play tricks on you. Don't rush. One mistake could cost you a fortune, because this exact penny, the 1978 Lincoln Memorial Cent, could be sitting in your drawer right now. And if it carries the right errors, it isn't worth 1 cent. It isn't even worth $1. It could be worth over $1 million. This penny almost slipped through the cracks of history, yet today it has stunned collectors, rattled dealers, and shocked the coin world with a value soaring up to $1.8 million. And the most chilling part? It looks so ordinary that you could easily mistake it for pocket change. In 2020, while most people were tossing pennies into jars, coin machines, or even the trash, a rare mistake happened deep inside the Denver Mint. It was a mistake so subtle, so hidden, that only the most determined eyes would ever notice it. At first glance, it was just another Lincoln penny. But collectors soon realized something extraordinary. What happened next would set fire to the coin market. Auction houses began whispering about a 2020 penny unlike any other, a coin born from a minting error so rare it turned a single cent into a treasure worth a fortune. But here's where the story gets chilling. One man reportedly found one of these pennies in his loose change, sitting unnoticed at the bottom of his car's cup holder. He almost spent it. He almost gave it away. Instead, curiosity made him take a closer look. And that one decision changed his life forever. Because hidden in the details of the 2020 penny lies the difference between 1 cent and $1.8 million. The coin world was stunned. Dealers scrambled. How could such a modern coin, a penny barely out of circulation for a few years, suddenly rank among the most valuable in U.S. history? The answer was simple but shocking. The Denver Mint had unknowingly released a batch of pennies carrying a misstrike, a doubled feature so faint most people's eyes passed right over it. But when collectors spotted it, the floodgates opened. Coin forums exploded. Rumors spread of pennies selling privately for unimaginable sums. And then came the proof. An auction hammer dropped at nearly $2 million. A penny, worth more than a mansion. No one knows exactly how many escaped into circulation. It could be a handful. It could be hundreds. That means right now, one of these coins could still be hiding in your change. Collectors describe the discovery as a once-in-a-lifetime miracle. Dealers call it lightning in a bottle. Everyday people call it unbelievable. Imagine holding a coin so common in appearance, a coin you've ignored thousands of times, only to learn it's the key to generational wealth. But what makes this coin truly breathtaking isn't just its value. It's the mystery. Why did the error happen? Was it an accident of rushed production? A flaw in the dies? Or could it be that some unnoticed part of history allowed this coin to slip into the wild as a hidden gift for those lucky enough to find it? And just when you think you understand, the story twists again. Because collectors discovered not one, but several variations of mistakes on the 2020 D penny. Some show a faint doubling on Lincoln's eye, others reveal a striking issue with the lettering, and a few even show weakness in the memorial design that makes them instantly unique. This is where the line between pocket change and fortune becomes razor thin. One tiny detail, a curve in a letter, a faint shadow in the strike, a distortion invisible to casual eyes, can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million. Auctioneers recall the room going silent as the bids rose. One collector raised his paddle, another countered. The numbers climbed past 500,000, then 1 million, then higher still. By the time the gavel fell, jaws had dropped. The penny that almost vanished into obscurity had rewritten numismatic history. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. These coins are still out there. Unsearched rolls, dusty coin jars, forgotten drawers, the change rattling around in your car. The dream isn't over, it's alive. Right now, in the hands of someone who doesn't even know it, a 2020 D penny is waiting to shock the world again. Collectors are hunting feverishly. Dealers are offering premiums for even the faintest sign of error. And ordinary people, people just like you, are digging through their change with new hope, driven by the knowledge that a simple penny could unlock a life-changing miracle. This is where the story becomes practical. The 2020 D penny to watch for carries subtle, yet undeniable traits. Look carefully at Lincoln's eye. Some errors show a doubling that almost makes it appear as though he's gazing twice. Study the lettering in Liberty and In God We Trust. Distortions, shadows, or doubling can mean the jackpot. And check the memorial design for weakness in the strike, as if the details melted or blurred during minting. It takes patience. It takes a careful eye. But history has proven that those who take the time to look are the ones who uncover the miracles. Don't rush, don't assume, and never toss aside a penny without a second glance, because one man's overlooked penny became a $1.8 million windfall. Another's dusty coin jar became the source of a story still whispered in the coin community. These stories aren't fairy tales. They're reminders that treasure doesn't always glitter. Sometimes it's copper, worn, and sitting quietly in plain sight. The most valuable coin of your life may already be in your hands. And if you find that elusive 2020 D penny, you won't just be holding a coin. You'll be holding history, fortune, and destiny itself. This penny almost ended up in the trash, but today, it's worth nearly $2 million. Yes, a simple copper coin, struck more than half a century ago, that most people would overlook without a second thought, has changed lives forever. The year was 1968. America was in turmoil. History was unfolding, and the U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies. But buried among the countless coins struck that year was one that defied the odds. A single mistake, invisible to the untrained eye, turned an everyday cent into a fortune. Collectors today call it one of the most shocking discoveries in modern numismatics. And yet, even now, most people who hold this coin in their hands don't even realize what they have. But here's where the story takes a turn. Because the 1968 Lincoln penny was struck in both Philadelphia and Denver. And while the Denver coins carry the familiar D, Mint mark. Something happened in Philadelphia that left collectors stunned. The coins there had no mint mark at all. Now, that might sound ordinary. After all, Philadelphia coins traditionally didn't carry mint marks for decades. But in 1968, something strange happened. Because certain 1968 pennies without a mint mark show errors so rare, so spectacular, that they pushed their values into the stratosphere. Some were struck on the wrong planchets. Others revealed doubled dies with Lincoln's profile ghosted against itself. A handful carried off-center strikes so dramatic they seemed impossible. And when these coins surfaced at auction, jaws dropped. One ordinary man, digging through a jar of old pennies in his garage, found one. He thought nothing of it at first, until a dealer offered him thousands on the spot. And when that coin finally crossed the auction block, it sold for nearly $2 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world, because collectors began rushing to check their own 1968 pennies. Dealers scrambled. Pocket change was searched like never before. Suddenly, every jar, every drawer, every piggy bank in America became a potential treasure chest. The truth is, this coin hides in plain sight. Its value lies not just in its age, but in the errors, the conditions, and the sheer improbability of survival. Most 1968 pennies are worth only face value. But the rare ones, those error-ridden survivors, have been valued as high as $1.90 million. Think about that for a moment. A single cent, multiplied in value by nearly 200 million times. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. And here's the detail that most people miss. The minting mistakes on the 1968 no mint mark penny aren't always obvious. Some are subtle double dies, where the letters, Liberty, or the date itself show a shadowy second strike. Others are planchet errors, pennies struck on dime stock, leaving them thin, light, and otherworldly. And still others are off-center strikes, the coin's rim stretched and distorted like a melted clock. Collectors were shocked when these details were revealed. Dealers called them once-in-a-lifetime finds. And yet, the chances are high that a coin just like this could be sitting in your collection right now, waiting to be discovered. But the story grows even more dramatic. Because not only is the 1968 no mint mark penny valuable in rare error forms, but certain examples in pristine, uncirculated condition are also commanding staggering sums. One coin, preserved perfectly for decades, with shimmering original luster, brought a price so high that veteran collectors could hardly believe their eyes. And still, most people spend these coins without a second glance. Imagine buying a cup of coffee with a penny that could have changed your entire life. Imagine tossing away a fortune without even knowing it. But here's the real kicker. The 1968 penny marked a turning point in U.S. minting history. It was one of the first years that modern minting technology began to dominate the process. But even machines fail. Even in an age of precision, mistakes slip through. And those mistakes are now worth millions. One collector described the moment he found his coin as pure shock. He said, "I looked at it once, twice, and my hand started shaking. I knew it was something special." That very coin ended up in a world-class auction, and when the hammer fell, it had changed his life forever. This is where you need to pay attention. Because identifying the 1968 no mint mark penny worth up to $1.9 million isn't about luck alone. It's about knowledge. You need to know exactly what to look for. Start with the basics. Flip the coin under bright light. Look closely at the word Liberty, at Lincoln's profile, at the date itself. Do you see doubling? A faint second outline? That's a double die, one of the most valuable errors known. Thinner, almost like a dime? It may have been struck on the wrong metal, and that could make it worth a fortune. Finally, study the edges. Off-center strikes are unmistakable. Part of Lincoln's face, or part of the memorial might be missing entirely. with a crescent of blank copper running around the side. These dramatic errors can catapult the value into 6, even 7 figures, and condition matters more than anything. A flawless, mint-state example is a golden ticket. Even tiny differences in grading can mean the difference between a few $100 and nearly $2 million. So, the next time you find a 1968 penny with no mint mark, don't dismiss it. Don't spend it. Don't toss it aside. Because hidden within that humble coin might be the greatest discovery of your life. This coin almost slipped through history unnoticed, but when collectors realized what it truly was, jaws dropped. A simple copper penny from 1971, with a tiny S mint mark under Lincoln's portrait, and yet, in the right condition, it is sold for some so staggering. We're talking up to $2 million. Most people would have spent it without a second thought. Tossed into a jar, handed over at the grocery store, lost under a couch cushion. But the truth is, this coin carries a story that shocked even the most seasoned collectors. Because hiding in plain sight, the 1971 Lincoln Memorial Penny is not just another piece of change. It's a key to one of the most mysterious chapters in American coinage history. The answer begins in the mints of 1971, when the United States was still producing billions of pennies every year. Most were struck in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The San Francisco coins bore the tiny S mint mark, a letter so small most people never even notice it. But in 1971, something unusual happened. The U.S. Mint was experimenting. Proof sets, special strikes, hidden errors, double dies, and in the rush to meet massive production demands, a small number of 1971's pennies slipped through with mistakes no one expected. Some showed doubling in the lettering. Others had faint, unusual strikes. And a few were so perfectly preserved, collectors now fight over them at auction. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these pennies, seemingly ordinary, surfaced decades later in pristine, untouched condition. Graded at the highest level possible, it shattered records when it went to auction. The final price? Enough to make the owner's hand shake. Nearly $2 million. For a coin most people would have thrown back into circulation. And that's when the frenzy began. Collectors everywhere started pulling out old proof sets from 1971, holding them up to the light, scanning every detail with magnifying glasses. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on untouched rolls. Because the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth millions comes down to the tiniest details. And here's where the story takes an even stranger turn. The 1971 is not rare in itself. Millions were made, but only a fraction, a microscopic fraction, carry the special characteristics that transform them into treasures. Some with doubled inscriptions like Liberty or In God We Trust. Some with razor-sharp proof finishes, and some preserved so flawlessly they gleam as though time itself has protected them. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Imagine holding one in your hand, that familiar copper glow, the weight of history pressed into it, but under a jeweler's loupe, you notice the letters doubled, clear and sharp. Your pulse races. Could it be? Collectors have described the moment as electric. The realization that you're not holding pocket change, but a life-changing discovery. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and his story isn't unique. Across the country, ordinary people have stumbled upon coins like these in old family boxes, in forgotten coin albums, or even in circulation. Every time, the discovery sparks headlines, and every time, it proves one truth: the treasure is still out there. But here's the danger. Not every 1971's penny is valuable. Many look ordinary. Many are worth only a few dollars. The secret lies in knowing exactly what to look for. Because one wrong assumption, one missed detail, and you could let $2 million slip right through your fingers. First, check the mint mark. The small S Under the date confirms it was struck in San Francisco. Next, examine the lettering. Look closely at Liberty and In God We Trust. If you see clear doubling, sharp, unmistakable shadows, you could be staring at a fortune. And then, the most critical factor of all, condition. If your coin is pristine, untouched, with mirror-like surfaces, it could qualify as a proof. And if it's graded at the highest levels, that's where the million-dollar magic happens. But what happened when one coin in nearly flawless condition hit the auction block? Bidders couldn't control themselves. Prices climbed higher and higher until finally, the hammer dropped. The coin had reached a value so staggering, whispers spread through the entire hobby. $2 million for a penny. Think about that for a moment. Right now, in someone's dresser drawer, in an old coffee can of change, in a dusty family coin album, there could be a 1971's penny just waiting to be rediscovered. A penny that could change someone's life forever. And this is what makes coin collecting so thrilling. It's not just about history. It's not just about copper and metal. It's about the possibility that fortune can hide in the smallest, most ordinary places. It's about the rush of uncovering a secret no one else has noticed. But the window is closing. Every year, more of these coins are found, graded, and locked away in private collections. Once they're gone, and the chance to discover one for yourself shrinks with every passing day, because history has already proven that the 1971's penny can be worth not just thousands, not just hundreds of thousands, but up to $2 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but instead, it stunned the coin world with a value that soared into the millions. Imagine holding a single penny from 1998, a coin so ordinary, so common, that you probably spent hundreds without a second thought. But hidden in the shadows of those everyday cents lies one piece that could transform an average life into a millionaire's dream. Yes, a 1998 no-mint marked Lincoln Memorial penny that could be worth up to $2.1 million. At first glance, it looks like nothing. Copper-plated zinc, weighing just 2.5 grams. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the front. The Lincoln Memorial standing tall on the reverse. Millions were struck, millions were spent, millions were forgotten. But one coin refused to be ordinary. One coin carried a secret so powerful that when it was discovered, even seasoned collectors were left speechless. What makes a coin minted in the late 1990s, long after the era of rare wheat pennies and steel cents, command such unimaginable value? The answer hides in a story that sounds almost like myth. In 1998, deep inside the U.S. Mint, the presses churned day and night. Billions of pennies were struck, each bearing the simple image of Lincoln and the memorial. But among them, a few mysterious coins slipped through, carrying details that were never meant to exist. Mistakes, errors, secrets. Some bore design anomalies that collectors had never seen before. A handful were struck using dies that hinted at changes meant for later years. And those differences turned a simple penny into $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Collectors began noticing something strange about certain 1998 pennies. Under magnification, the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial, seemed different, sharper, more refined, as if the design wasn't quite the same as the billions of others struck that year. And when experts compared them, the truth came crashing down. These coins had been struck with a proved die by mistake, a die never meant to touch circulation coins. Suddenly, ordinary pocket change became history. One man reportedly discovered his life-changing penny in the most casual way imaginable, tucked into a handful of coins he nearly used for a cup of coffee. Dealers laughed when he brought it in. But when authentication confirmed what he had, the laughter turned to awe. His single cent was suddenly worth more than houses, cars, or gold bars. That one penny, no mint mark, carried a price tag in the millions. Think about that for a moment. A coin most people wouldn't bend down to pick up from the sidewalk, turned into a ticket to financial freedom. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to track down every 1998 penny they could find. And ordinary people began pulling jars off shelves, dumping out change drawers, searching for their chance at glory. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The 1998 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny with the wrong reverse, often called the wide AM variety, looks almost identical to its worthless cousins. On the regular 1998 penny, the letters A and M in the word America on the back are close together, almost touching. But on the $1 million variety, they are spaced apart, a wide gap, clear and bold under magnification. That microscopic difference is the line between 1 cent and $2.1 million. Collectors couldn't believe it. The mistake was so subtle, so invisible to the casual eye, that countless people probably spent these rare coins without ever knowing. Some might still be rolling across counters, slipping through coin machines, hiding in old piggy banks, just waiting for the right set of eyes. But the story doesn't end there. Because once the discovery hit the market, bidding wars erupted. At auctions, the value of these rare 1998 no-mint Mark pennies climbed higher and higher. Dealers whispered about sales in the hundreds of thousands. And when one pristine example finally surfaced in top condition, the hammer price soared into the realm of over $2 million. A single penny, sold for the kind of money most people dream about their entire lives. The U.S. Mint never released exact numbers of how many were struck. Were there only a handful? A few dozen? Or are there thousands sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, or circulation, waiting to be claimed? Every time someone spends a penny from 1998, the possibility exists that they just gave away a fortune. One collector described the moment he spotted the wide AM on his coin. His heart raced. His hand shook. He knew instantly what he had, and in that single instant, his entire life changed. That's the power of this penny. But what happened next made history. After that discovery, a frenzy erupted across the coin community. People began re-examining not just 1998 pennies, but 1999 and 2000 as well. Other wide AM varieties were confirmed, but it was the 1998 that stood out, commanding the highest prices, igniting the most intense bidding wars. For coin dealers, it became a gold rush. For everyday people, it became hope. And for the lucky few who found one, it became a miracle. Start by checking the date. It must be 1998. Flip it over and look closely at the word America. If the letters A and M are nearly touching, it's just a common penny worth 1 cent. But if they're wide apart, with a clear separation, you may be holding a fortune. Use a magnifying glass. Double check under good lighting. Because missing this detail could mean missing millions. And here's one more clue most people forget. Condition matters. A heavily worn 1998 wide AM penny might bring in thousands. But in pristine, uncirculated condition, the price skyrockets into the millions. That's why collectors obsess over grading, over surfaces free from scratches, over luster that shines as if it were struck yesterday. Imagine it. You could be the next person to discover a coin that changes everything. A penny you've ignored for years, sitting quietly in a jar, waiting to reveal its secret. The kind of discovery that collectors dream of and dealers fight over. The kind of discovery that turns a single cent into a story worth more than $2 million. And here's the truth you can't ignore. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up forgotten in a coffee can of loose change, but when it surfaced at auction, it stunned collectors, selling for over $2 million. Yes, a simple 2007 Denver Mint penny, a coin you've probably seen hundreds of times, became one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin history. The answer lies in a story of mistakes, miracles, and mysteries hidden deep within the U.S. Mint. And if you think this coin can't be hiding in your pocket right now, think again, because the 2007 D. Lincoln Memorial Penny is more than just copper-plated zinc. It's a piece of history, a coin that carries secrets most collectors never notice. And for one lucky finder, it turns spare change into a life-changing fortune. But before we reveal what makes this penny worth millions, let me take you back to 2007. It was the final years of the Lincoln Memorial reverse design, a design Americans had seen on their pennies for decades. Billions of these coins were struck at the Denver Mint. They clinked through cash registers, parking meters, and piggy banks. No one suspected that hidden among them, a tiny fraction carried an error so rare, so bizarre, that it would rewrite numismatic history. Collectors were shocked when the first one appeared. It looked like any other penny, until the light hit it just right. That's when the details revealed a striking difference, a minting mistake so subtle, yet so dramatic, it transformed a 1-cent coin into a $2 million miracle. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers rushed to verify the find. Grading services handled it with gloves, whispering in disbelief. Could this really be a mint error from 2007 worth millions of dollars? The answer was yes. And when it hit the auction block, the hammer price shocked everyone. A penny, selling for over $2.20 million. And here's the part that gives every collector chills. Experts believe there are more of these coins still out there. Yes, sitting unnoticed in junk drawers, in old change jars, or buried in rolls of pennies that no one has searched. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The mint mark, D, is clear, but what sets it apart is the striking error in its design and finish. Some show double die characteristics, letters on Liberty, or the date that look doubled under magnification. Others reveal unusual plating flaws, where the copper didn't bond perfectly to the zinc core, creating a unique shimmering effect. And in extremely rare cases, transitional errors occurred. Coins struck on planchets that weren't meant for the year at all. Imagine holding a coin in your hand that was never supposed to exist. Collectors call these coins phantoms of the mint, and they pay fortunes to own them. But here's the chilling truth. Most people who hold them, spin them, they never even notice. But the story doesn't end there. Auction houses have confirmed multiple six-figure sales of rare 2007 D pennies, and one example, certified in pristine condition with an unbelievable mint error, crossed the $2.2 million mark. That sale turned an ordinary family's casual discovery into generational wealth. Imagine opening a roll of pennies from the bank, spotting the difference, and realizing in that instant that your life would never be the same. Collectors were stunned. Some couldn't believe it, but it was real, and it proved that even modern pennies, coins minted in the billions, can hide life-changing treasures. Now here's the part every coin hunter needs to know. How do you identify the 2007 D. Lincoln Memorial penny that could be worth over $1 million? First, check the mint mark. Look just below the date, the small D for Denver. Then, look closer. Examine Liberty and In God We Trust. Do the letters appear doubled, slightly shifted, or thicker than normal? Next, look at the date, especially the 2007. Under magnification, doubling, distortion, or unusual thickness can reveal a valuable error. Also, check the coin's surface. If the copper plating looks unusual, with bubbles, peeling, or shimmering anomalies, don't dismiss it. Some of the rarest and most valuable errors come from flaws in the plating process. But here's the ultimate secret: condition matters. The higher the grade, the higher the value. A 2007 D penny pulled from circulation might bring hundreds, even thousands if it has the right error, but a flawless, uncirculated specimen with a rare error, That's the one that reached $2.20 million. Never clean it. Never scratch it, and never toss it back into circulation. Instead, store it safely, handle it only by the edges, and consider submitting it to a grading service like PCGS or NGC for authentication. That simple step could mean the difference between pocket change and a life-changing fortune. Because here's the truth, every time you check a handful of pennies, you're playing the ultimate treasure hunt. Most people will overlook them, but the few who know what to look for could unlock wealth beyond imagination. This penny almost went unnoticed. It sat in a small jar of change for years, forgotten, tossed around, nearly spent at a gas station. But when it was finally examined closely, collectors could hardly believe their eyes. What looked like an ordinary 1985 Denver minted penny turned out to be worth more than $2 million. Yes, you heard that right. Over $2 million hiding in plain sight. At first glance, the 1985 Lincoln Memorial penny seems like nothing special. Billions were struck at the Denver Mint that year, filling pockets, piggy banks, and cash registers all across America. Most of them are still worth just 1 cent today. But a rare handful hold secrets that only the sharpest eyes can see. And when those secrets are revealed, they transform into treasures worth more than most people's homes. One collector described the moment he found his coin. He had been looking through rolls of pennies from the bank, expecting nothing but ordinary change. Then, one coin caught the light in just the right way. Something about the lettering, something about the strike, it was different. He nearly dismissed it. But he didn't. And that decision changed his life forever. What makes this coin so extraordinary? The answer lies deep in the world of minting errors. Those rare accidents that happen when machinery falters, dies crack, or planchets slip through the presses in unexpected ways. In 1985, at the Denver Mint, just a few coins were struck with such unusual characteristics that they stand out like golden needles in a haystack. Collectors whisper about doubled dies, off-center strikes, even transitional errors involving the wrong metal composition. Each one is a potential jackpot. And in this year, some of those mistakes reached values as high as $2.3 million. But here's where it gets truly suspenseful. These errors are not bold and obvious. They're subtle. To the untrained eye, they look just like any other penny. Imagine holding a life-changing fortune between your fingers and not even realizing it. That's exactly what's happening all across America right now. Millions of people are unknowingly spending pennies that could buy them a mansion, a luxury car, or an early retirement. Dealers were stunned when the first 1985 penny with a dramatic minting anomaly surfaced at auction. Bidders fought fiercely, driving the price higher and higher until it soared past the $1 million mark. And then, it kept climbing. Gasps echoed through the room as the final hammer came down. A penny that could have been spent on a piece of candy had just sold for more than $2 million. The coin world had been shaken to its core. But what happened next stunned collectors even more. After that record-breaking sale, people began scouring their change, desperate to find another one. And slowly, more examples began to appear. One was tucked away in a family's safe for decades, thought to be just a curiosity. Another was spotted in a dusty coin album, where it had sat untouched since the 1980s. Each discovery fueled the frenzy, reminding everyone that history's greatest treasures are often hiding in plain sight. The truth is, the 1985 penny is a perfect storm of rarity, mystery, and value. The Denver Mint struck billions, but only a handful contain the errors that transform them into multi-million-dollar wonders. And that's what makes them so dangerous to overlook. Collectors know that a single coin can change everything. Dealers know that one overlooked detail could mean the difference between 1 cent and a life-changing fortune. And ordinary people, people just like you, are beginning to realize that their spare change could hold the key to unimaginable wealth. This is where the story gets personal. If you hold a 1985 penny with AD mint mark just below the year, study it closely. Look at Lincoln's profile. Check the lettering around the edges. Is there doubling in the words, liberty, or in God we trust? Do the details look unusually sharp or strangely distorted? Sometimes the errors are hiding in the tiniest places, invisible until you take a magnifying glass to the coin. Other times, they reveal themselves instantly, with bold doubling or dramatic off-center strikes that make the coin look like a misprint. These are the clues that separate the ordinary from the extraordinary. Collectors were shocked to learn that even small imperfections could send prices skyrocketing. A slightly misaligned die, a faint doubling, or a planchet that wasn't quite right. Each detail tells a story of how that coin escaped the mint with a secret it was never meant to carry. And each story adds to its mystique, its rarity, and ultimately its value. But what drives these coins into the millions? It's not just rarity, it's the human fascination with mistakes. When billions of coins are struck perfectly, the few that aren't become legends. They remind us that perfection is fragile, that accidents can create miracles, and that sometimes the smallest things hold the greatest power. That's why collectors are willing to pay more than $2 million for a single 1985 D-penny. It's not just metal, it's history, it's art, and it's a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Think about it. Every time you reach into your pocket for change, you're holding the possibility of discovery. You might be holding an everyday penny, or you might be holding a coin that could rewrite your financial future. And you'd never know it unless you looked. That's why collectors spend hours poring over rolls of coins, examining every detail with a magnifying glass. They know that the next $1 million miracle could be hiding in the very next coin. But here's the twist most people miss. Condition matters. Even if you find a 1985 D penny with an error, its value skyrockets if it's in pristine condition. Coins that were never heavily circulated, those that kept their original shine, fetch the highest prices. That's why collectors guard them in protective cases, shielding them from the tiniest scratches. A penny in poor condition might sell for thousands, but in mint condition, it can soar into the millions. And that's exactly how one lucky collector walked away with a fortune of $2.3 million, because his coin had survived the decades almost untouched. Have you looked closely at those jars of coins sitting in the back of your closet? Have you studied that old penny your grandfather left behind? Because the next story of an ordinary American striking it rich could start with you. And all it takes is a single coin, the right coin,